Hello, my name is Emily Hewson. This presentation is formed in a Pecha Kucha style and will explore some of the benefits and the risks that we have experienced in the journey towards the world embracing globalisation. It has a direct focus on sporting events in today's year of 2038, specifically looking at the Olympic Games. Mega sporting events are used to stimulate regeneration into hosting cities, enhancing status and promoting their positioning on a global scale. Paterson. Mega sports events such as the Olympics are multicultural and have the opportunity to bring in huge investments into the country. Mega sporting events also helps to create jobs within the hosting city and those travelling there. Passenger. With the first Olympic Games ranging back to 2,500 years ago in Athens, the Olympic Games have developed to become the most important mega sporting event of all time. Maya. Only over 100 years ago did the modern Olympics take place, increasing more male and female participation and including a range of different sports, with more money flowing into the organisation. Looking back in the last 20 years, many mega sporting events were held in Western countries and had many Western values, Gupta, but now non-Western nations are hosting these events, Palmer. Western countries haven't hosted an event in the last 10 years, with the most recent Olympics being held in Oman and in Saudi Arabia. Who would have thought that just 20 years ago? Recently, within the last decade, looking back to 2028, the MENA regions have become an increasingly attractive place to host events due to globalisation over the last few years. MENA stands for the Middle East and North African regions, and also Asia. The financial backing from these emerging markets can help the case to be built to host an international sporting event, Randery. With the increase in tourism to these countries over the last 20 years, this shows that they are a strong contender to host the 2040 Olympics. For example, looking back 14 years ago was the first time for Dubai bidding for the 2024 Olympics. This was the first step for these countries in an attempt to host the Olympics, adding to the country's economic growth and creating local jobs. However, if successful in hosting the Olympics, the jobs created are only temporary and cannot offer full-time employment, with most roles being voluntary. However, Demorgus Moreno and Piang Gua suggest that there are political, economic, cultural and athletic perspectives which are in support of volunteers at the Olympic Games. Do we still need volunteers for the 2040 Games? Climate change has deeply affected the way in which the Olympics are being able to choose their hosting destinations now. Looking back to the Sochi Games in 2014 being the first Olympic Games to take climate change seriously, Kosh. Now, in 2038, Yale Climate Connections predicted that only 12 out of the 21 previously hosting countries for the Winter Olympics will be able to host due to the effects of global warming. China has had the power to take advantage of the rising temperatures by being able to host the next few Winter Olympic Games. Yang Fang of Peking University in China states, with the strong growth in winter sports in China, it was exciting to see that the mountain clusters have very climate reliable future even under the very warm climate change scenarios. It is looking likely that these are our last few years of the Winter Olympics. A study led by the University of Waterloo in Canada back in 2018 found global greenhouse gases will wipe out the Games by the end of the century. My team are extremely worried about this prospect. What will happen to the legacy of the Winter Games? The Olympic Games are often used as a global event to bring nations together and to be enjoying in their competitive sports spirit, Fuller. However, many host countries have been affected by poverty in a reflection of hosting an Olympics. Looking way back into 2016 when it was Rio in Brazil's turn to host, native Brazilians were less than happy as many were evicted from their homes known as favelas. With the help from globalisation, the Olympics has been forced to move on to non-Western countries, which in turn, even still today, 20 years ago, are still corrupt. I remember Brazil bought a 10-foot high barrier stretching 5 miles, Bowater, to hide favela communities run by gangs to keep away from the shining lights of the Olympics. Reminiscing back to when we last hosted the London Olympics in 2012, those who weren't lucky enough to keep their homes faced a major boost in property prices, forcing them out to other areas in which they brought their poverty and social issues with them. The Centre on Housing Rights and Evictions estimated over the last 30 years more than 200 million people have been evicted due to the Olympics. Barclay. Emerging from poverty, international development has really taken the world in its stride recently. International development has allowed countries such as South America, Africa, and Asia to improve life conditions where there is low income, Levermore and Beacon. Sport has really become a lifeline for communities to come together to help them to unveil their inner athlete abilities. Since the war ended 5 years ago, sport has really been able to help those who were affected with post-conflict and violence, Levermore and Beacon. This has allowed both genders to really get involved with sports, so hopefully in 2040, during the next Olympics, they'll be there competing. It's a massive improvement from just 10 years ago. their already economic, environmental, and sociable benefits. Although it is such great news that the Global South, actually you may know it as the Third World, is rising in its developments, it still hasn't veered away from their social and cultural issues. For many years, Iran has had strict laws on not allowing women into sporting events or even competing, leading to some women being arrested for human rights. Sadly, 20 years on and still not much has changed. Community and religious influences can be stronger than influences of a sport programme, international development through sport. Therefore, it is important that through the development of sport, in these emerging markets, that it does not expose these conflicts to Western sensitives. The Olympic Committee are working hard to form these relationships with developing countries. Mega sporting events are regularly being hosted outside of the Western world, which has been a huge shift in confidence for these emerging regions. However, we still need more to be done in making use of previously hosted venues and continue to practice and perform the sports highlighted through the Olympics. Perhaps old venues could be transformed into housing for the poorer communities or for those who have faced eviction. Poverty is still something which we are working on today in December 2038. It is so important that we are able to optimise any opportunity given to host countries of the Olympics to platform poverty and make a real change with profits made from tourists, not just continue to plead ignorance as bliss. With more countries working together, maybe in 2040 we may have a slightly different world. Finally, with climate change still very much a taboo and scary subject, the question of will there be a Winter Olympic Games is still on the cards. Well, even the Paris Climate Change Agreement didn't help the situation. What is going to happen to the skiers and the snowboarders? Well, we have to move to esports. My friend works in gaming technology. Perhaps this is the way forward for the Olympic Games. Hello, my name is Emily Hewson. This presentation is formed in a Pecha Kucha style and will explore some of the benefits and the risks that we have experienced in the journey towards